use your own model. Like, don't trust someone else's work when it comes down to it. And
Right.
to me, I took that to mean not only, hey, here's your model that you're putting in Excel or whatever, but also like your seller's going to give you nice, pretty numbers that they want to work.
You're working on your creating generational fire, right? You got
Mm-hmm.
creating generational fire. You are currently still in the U.S. Army as a reserve
Mm-hmm.
soldier, and you're also doing a syndication. Is that right?
That's correct. Staying on my first syndication right now.
So how's this first syndication look for you? Matter of fact, let's go back. Now we're not even gonna go into how it looks right now. Let's talk about how you got into the syndication in the first place. Let's start there. How'd you get into this syndication for you coming on?
Yeah, so really, I started investing in real estate knowing that I didn't like single family homes. I didn't like hey, if one tenant leaves, you have no mortgage payment that month. So I knew I
Got
wanted
it.
multifamily. So I jumped in when I first started investing with like duplexes at least. So that's kind of where I led, and I knew I wanted to grow in the multifamily space just because
Mm-hmm.
I liked that aspect, the kind of diversity of multiple tenants going in there. So I basically jumped in, figured out quickly that I didn't have a ton of capital and I was going to need to figure out how to overcome that barrier. And
Right.
surprised, I know, right? Real estate, everyone's running low on capital. So syndication's kind of what led me to, or the lack of capital is what led me to the syndication side of the house.
Right.
Um, right now I knew that's kind of where I wanted to go. I like the multifamily space, so it was really the first step for me was finding a partnership that I wanted to GP with, and that was kind of the first step in this. Instead of just going, hey, where do I find the property? It's let me find the partner to work with that I enjoy. So actually found that partnership through the War Room, which is a mastermind that we're both part of, and that's kind of what kicked this off. And after I found a partner looking for, basically to jump in the multifamily syndication space as well, we kind of talked about it and we're like, let's figure out what our parameters are. And from there, we started basically saying, hey, we want our first property to be 20 to 40 units. We're looking basically this price range, this, and we laid out all of our criteria. We want our returns for our investors to be, and then also like what our long-term goal is. And we know that, hey, 20 to 40 units is kind of our training wheels where we're
Right.
getting started, and that's what we feel comfortable with right now. But our end state is how do we start picking up 100 plus units shortly hereafter. But we also know, I mean, you make mistakes on your first property, so instead of making mistakes on a 100 unit property, let's make a mistake on that 20, 40 unit property that it's inevitable. I mean, it just is.
No, you're telling the truth. It's a solid plan though. You guys got a solid plan. Here's my first question to you though. You talked about how you guys create a partnership, right? What was the criteria for you, and how that conversation go to decide who's going to be? You guys said, "Hey, all right, we're going to be partners." How did you come to that fruition or
Yeah,
conclusion?
so
That
that
is.
one was basically through this same mastermind. Him and I jumped on like a individual call and said, hey, just really more of like a get to know you. What are you looking for in real estate? How could we
Right.
potentially help each other? And the conversation came out of like, hey, I basically was like, I'm looking to take multifamily to a higher level than I can achieve myself. I like working with a team. This is kind of where I'm looking to get in the next 2, 3, 5 years. And then he went through and had the same conversation. And then really like over a couple discussions we had, it was like, hey, we think we can work together here. We're kind of aligned on where we want to go.
Okay.
Let's take what both of our big pictures are, and this overlaps. Do we want to do something here? And
Got it.
both of us like, yeah, that makes sense. So both of us know long term we have different things that don't overlap, and we're cool
Yeah.
with going different ways in regards to that. But when it comes to the syndication, we know, hey, multifamily is where we want to go. So let's invest some time together right now at how do we achieve that and make that happen. So
Okay. Nice. So it sounds like you had kind of, you at least going in, you had something in mind, and then you kind of just brought it together with him. Hey, this is left, this is right, this is left and right limits. This is what I'm agreeing to. This is what I'm not down with. That kind of thing.
absolutely,
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay.
Just
Dope.
because, I mean, you can get to a whole different like everybody likes doing different things. So let's
Yeah.
put our left and right limits on what this is right now that we're doing together, and not get, hey, if you're going to go buy a single family house on your own, like you don't have to tell me about it. That's your stuff. But if we're going to start looking at 20, 40 units together, like we're
Right.
going to do those together. So
Right. So how's that partnership work as far as the syndication piece? Because you're doing the syndication. Is he also syndicating, or he's focused more on like underwriting stuff like that?
So that piece we're still actually in the middle of figuring out of like the exact roles we're doing.
Right.
Just because both of us have kind of different skill sets. He's got a background in kind of building models and doing a lot of that underwriting, just not directly for real estate. So he's bringing that into this partnership. And then, I mean, I bought a 10 unit on my own, so I have some of that background real estate knowledge of, hey, this piece in the model works or this one doesn't.
Right.
So right now we're actually going through and kind of building our own model of how we want this to look for us. Just because, I mean, you could pick up someone else's syndication model and it might work, but you don't really understand the formulas. Is there some Excel macro somewhere that is changing your numbers that you don't know about? So
Right.
we're okay with taking a little bit longer to get it to look right for us, and then we'll kind of go through from there and move forward. But yeah, we don't have exactly defined roles. We've talked about, hey, in the near future, let's start solidifying what each person is doing so that we can say, hey, as this grows, we will need to hire someone to do underwriting. As this grows, we need to hire someone to go find our deals off market. But right now, between the two of us, we're okay with, hey, let's do a couple different jobs to make sure we understand it at a high level before we start niching down individually and hiring people to come take some of this off our plate.
So what are you doing right now to decide whether you can actually do it on a high level? Because you mentioned you're doing it on high level learning. So what are you doing to learn?
Yeah, so a lot of this is basically we'll both do some of these jobs at so like an example is we had a 41 unit apartment come across our desk the other day.
Right.
So I did like an analysis of it, and then I shot it to him and I said, hey, you run analysis and then let's sit down together and basically compare them, see what we're getting and if this makes sense to us.
Okay.
So a little bit of that is kind of that cross pollination of, hey, are we both agreeing that this is the right path and are we running this model correct? Because it is kind of a new model, so we want to make sure, hey, I want to see this, or I forgot to put in my property management percentage at
Right.
the correct level. I put it at 4% when it should be 7% or whatever. So a little bit of cross pollination there is
Okay.
what we're doing, and then we're kind of already starting to kind of lean towards one of us does one thing better than the other, and we know that'll kind of hash itself out here pretty quick. But for now, we like to be able to, just because we're jumping into this new syndication thing, to
Right.
understand how the pieces work together.
Right. So are you reading any books? Are you going through any kind of training to help you kind of narrow that down from as wide as it is now to, hey, I'm going to be on this side, is he's going to be on this side? Are you doing anything in that nature kind of help you out there?
Yeah, so we've sat through. We found basically we're trying to get to a couple conferences this year. There was
Okay.
one online conference that it was like this free online conference that we both kind of picked up as much as we could that weekend. It was 2.5 days, and you can't just walk away from your family for 2.5 days on a moment's notice.
Right.
But picked up as much as we could, and then I mean the learning never really stops here. So whether it's podcasts, audiobooks, I'm a big audio person, so I do a lot of audiobooks as well, and then really just kind of even down to like talking to people who run syndications that are kind of at that next step, either past us or a couple steps above, saying, hey, what are we forgetting? What did you guys do in this area? And just kind of having like those pointed questions with them and having them turn around and like sharpshoot our process of like, hey, that worked or that didn't work, or did you think about this? And kind of pulling that mentor as well is kind of a good way to think about it.
I like it. That makes sense. What's been the impactful advice so far for you? Like, what's been the one thing that kind of stuck with you that you're kind of holding on to at the moment?
So the main one, honestly, that's been so far for us is like, don't really. I'm trying to think of how it was phrased to me, but it was basically like, use your own model. Like, don't trust someone else's work when it comes down to it. And it,
Right.
to me, I took that to mean not only, hey, here's your model that you're putting in Excel or whatever, but also like your seller's going to give you nice, pretty numbers that they want to work. Like, go do
Right.
your due diligence, make sure that those are accurate. Did they leave out a line item that gets left out a lot? Is like, hey, trash. Like, trash has to get picked up, and most people are like, oh, that's not in there in the seller package. Yeah, but you have to pay for it still. So,
Right. Yeah.
kind of doing that due diligence and actually verifying other people's information, whether it's coming to you in a marketing package, or whether it's a model that we're going to essentially build on our own, so that I know, hey, this formula actually makes sense and they're not pulling something from some other spreadsheet that I can't get access to and I don't really know how this number is being created. So that's what's stuck with me the most,
Okay.
and why we're spending a little bit more time up front trying to make sure that our processes are set up right, that our underwriting set up right before we start just slinging out offers left and right on things, and then you start to realize, hey, this model was wrong, so now all my
Right.
margins are wrong, and we're not making money anymore.
Right. So what are you guys focused on when it comes to the property? Like when a property comes across your desk and you go to underwrite, what exactly are you guys looking at? Are you looking at value add? Are you just looking at, hey, this is going to cash flow a certain number or it's a cap rate? What are you looking for that's going to differentiate one from the other at this point?
Yeah, so we do. It's basically we started molding this process into a couple different steps. So the first one is, because there's a lot of properties that come across, so we do like a real quick analysis of, pretty much we take the full amount of the asking price,
Mm-hmm.
break it down into a price per unit, and then take a
Okay.
1% rule of that. And then if that's basically, if it's within 15% of market rate already,
Mm-hmm.
we're probably not going to go after that one, just because we can't add enough value to it. So we like the value add, but we like it in the operational side as
Mm-hmm.
well as kind of your more, I'm gonna call it like the construction side.
Got it.
So whether it's just poor management, or they haven't raised the rents in 15 years because it's a mom and pop landlord and they know every tenant. So we like that initial operation
Right.
side, as
Yeah.
well as the, hey, let's go do some type of value add.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking right now for like full gut rehabs on anything. We're looking more for, hey, let's take, I call it like kind of the cosmetic rehab, where you got your nice
Surface level.
paints, maybe
Yeah.
a service level, yeah. Kitchen updates, a little bathroom updates if needed, but you're not talking like a full electric or plumbing rehab, because so I have a 10 unit from 1927 when it was built,
Oh
and it
boy.
had original electric,
Wow.
original plumbing. I had to find a contractor to come in to update the electric from the original knob and tube, because my insurance was like, this is a fire hazard, you got to get it updated. And let me
I can
tell
see
you,
how that
people
would be a
did
problem.
not want to work with knob and tube.
I'm
So,
not. I'm not at all surprised by that. I know a guy who only looks at stuff that was before like 1960, and there's like a
mhm.
specific electrical box. I can't remember what the box is called, but there's a specifically electrical box that he does not mess with. He's like, this thing is horrible. It's like Pacific, Northern Pacific, or something like that. He just
Okay.
doesn't mess with it at all because he's like, it's 100% a fire hazard, just like you said. So I'm not
Yep.
surprised by that. So you got that 10 unit. Now you've got this new one. What lessons are you learning? What lessons have you taken from that original 10 unit that you had that you're now applying to this project you're working on now?
Yeah. So honestly, straight the don't mess with the electric if you don't need to. Like anything.
Got it.
To be honest, knob and tube is just it. You have to budget for it, and if
Right.
you don't, and I mean, I'm not saying that older properties you can't make money on. You just have to put them in your budget and your analysis from the beginning, and that was a mistake that I didn't. The other one that I learned from that one was, don't just take the seller's tax number and think it's going to be the same after the property appraises.
Mm.
So I'll give you the story on that one. So I bought the
Okay.
10 unit where it was in Ohio, and the property, the last time it, basically this dude had owned it for like 30 plus years. So they
Right.
were using this 10 unit value at $190,000. And when I bought it, they basically pulled updated prices, and I bought it for 435, and now my tax bill reflected off of 435 and not $190,000. So when I ran my initial taxes, I was like, hey, I figure it'll go up. I think I put in like 8 or 10% increase, and it was
Mm-hmm.
way above that. And it was just, the first year wasn't bad. I was like, still going through the rehab numbers, kind of going there. And then when I got my second year tax bill and it had the full bill in there, it was rough. So,
It was a
um,
shocker, huh?
yeah. So I mean, my main takeaway was really like, don't just take their tax bill as it is. Even that buffer percentage, like go into the county, figure out how they run their taxes, and figure out what your
Right.
taxes are gonna be. And it kind of takes me back to that very first point of like, do your own due diligence and spend the time doing it right. Because I mean, it basically took what was a very solid deal and made it a very average deal for what's going to be a couple years.
Well, I mean,
So
you should make it out well on that at full cycle though. No.
yeah, so that one actually, I bought that one as for my daughter long term. So that's
Okay,
part of
got
the
it, got it.
creating generational fire. Is like I like not only is it her property in the future, whether it's for a college fund, a wedding down payment, her house down payment, something like that, but like I
Right.
can teach her entire life about her property. Like we can talk about the expenses for her property as she gets older and starts to learn things, and I can use it to teach like foundational finance classes that just aren't taught nowadays. And
Right.
it's something where
Absolutely.
like she's excited about it. So like that's my hope for it. She's still 3, so who knows if she's gonna be excited about this or not. But that's my hope
I'm.
for it.
I don't know, man. I'd say with you just being as a father, knowing what it is to be a father, you taking the time to do that is commendable. Like that's huge because they're just like you said, schools aren't going to teach that. And right
Hmm.
now, it's paramount, particularly if you're already in the game. And this could go if you're boxing, if you're playing soccer, if you're doing whatever, right? You should be teaching the kids what you at least what you learn because but whether they love it
Hmm.
or don't, there's still stuff that can be applied to it that you learn from your lessons you're able to pass on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk about that generational or creating generational fire as you call it because you've got your site creating generational fire, but there's something specific when it comes to the fire part. Talk to me about where that came from, what that derives from, and where you'd like to go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, FIRE in general, it's an acronym. It stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And there's a big FIRE community, as they call it, about people really trying to, they call it like taking back your own financial power. So, like, if you don't, if you're not living paycheck to paycheck, you're not tied to your job.
Right.
And part of that is like, for me, the financial independence is I don't want to feel like I have to work more and miss my kids, essentially miss them growing up, whether they're playing
Right.
soccer practice or me being able to go coach their soccer, dance recitals, whatever it is as they get older. So I started down this financial independence path pretty early of really just saving money away to help in the future. And I'm somebody who's like, I like just go, 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 go. So I can't
Right.
imagine I'm going to want to retire early, but I like the ability to. Um, it's just true. Like a lot of people I
Yeah.
know that are in that path, they like to do things, and I would prefer instead of retire early, like to go do something that I like doing. And to me, it's real estate. So like I'm in the process of changing that to financial independence through real
Right.
estate, um, because it's ultimately it comes down to like living your life exactly how you want. And to me, I want to spend as much time as I can with my family. So if I feel like, hey, I'm working this job and I have to be there 50 hours a week because I'm this go getter, well, I'm giving up an extra 10 plus hours that I should be with my family. So
Right.
like I went and found a W-2 job that pays me by the minute. So like essentially if I only work 30 hours, I get paid 30 hours. Like yeah, I'm getting paid less, but I get 10 more hours with my family. And if I
Right.
need the money, I work 50 hours and I get paid 50 hours. So and that's not, I know not everybody could do that, but like I set that up so that long term, as I start building the syndication more and more, I can slowly pull my time back off of my full time W-2 job and put it into
Right.
the syndication. And I'm not going from like fully risk jumping into the syndication with no income now. I'm just dialing back my current W-2 job.
I like it. No, that's yeah, that's a good thing. I think that's really a good thing. Do you think that drive that you have that's going to keep you going, it's going to keep going, keep going, keep
Mm-hmm.
going, that ambition, if you will, do you think that's derived directly from you as a person, your personality, or do you think there's a part of that that's been influenced by you being in the U.S. military?
That's a good one. I would say both, to be honest.
Okay.
And the way I describe it is I think it comes down to finding your fundamental why. Like what is driving you? So for me, it all came down to like being a father, being a good husband, and
Mm,
I can stay up late, I can get up early, I can do whatever to make sure that I spend the time with my family and I'm the best father and husband I can be. So some of this actually derived from my time in the military. So like my daughter was born while I was deployed. So like that drive of, hey, let me go do as much as I can in the military,
Right.
immediately affected of now my daughter's 4 months old when I come home. And
Right.
that drove me to, how do I spend as much time with her as humanly possible? And how do I do that essentially throughout her entire life?
Right.
So a lot of the drive for being kind of who I am came from kind of my parents and my uprising. It was built even further through the U.S. military, and like just they kind of just have this way to ingrain some of these key qualities into you. If you take it seriously, they always say you get out what you put into it, and I'm somebody that like fully puts myself into everything, and
Yeah.
I got a lot out of the Army because I put a lot into it.
I'm gonna be honest. Kyle. I think, and this is me personally, my personal opinion, of course. I think no matter what you do, there's a monicum of what you get from the military that's going to go with you regardless, right? Good, bad, or ugly. Like even if you don't put all in, after you get up at 4:30 every morning for 21 days, 30 days, 40 days, whatever it is, at some point you're gonna start just waking up at 4:30 in the morning, looking around like a crazy person. And not a crazy person because you are crazy, but just at that point you're not in it. You're just like, looking around for no reason, right? I think you're 100% right. Like I think a part of it is definitely the military. I think also a part of it is you being driven, which is like you said, is really cool because you're creating this generational fire, not just for yourself but for your family as well, and pushing that through. But even more so to the fact now you're going to end up being an inspiration to a soldier that's out there who's listening or watching right now and thinking, oh well, my son was just born while I was deployed. I really wanted to be a part of his life. Now he or she's knowing, okay, I can do more through possibly real estate or syndication or whatever it might be. So that's some really good advice. That's a really good thought process. What's your advice for somebody who's just starting out, who like we just said, who's deployed right now? They're deployed right now. They just happen to stumble upon the real estate from the foxhole, and they're hearing you and I's voice. What's your advice to them to figure this out?
Yeah, so that to me that it's simple, it's not easy.
Okay.
So spend 5 minutes every day just moving the ball forward. Just 5 minutes. And if that's all the time you have to start, whether it's, hey, I'm going to spend 5 minutes saying, I know I want to buy real estate. What type of real estate do I want to buy? Is it a single family house? Is it a duplex? Is it a quad? Do I want to go find self-storage? Seems like a lot. Just pick one. That's all you got to do on the first day is like, what do I want? And on the second day, let me go find a market. Do I want to invest in Orlando, Florida, Dayton, Ohio, Colorado Springs, Colorado? Like, just say, hey, which one do I think is interesting? And then literally just start digging away just like 5 minutes a day of like, how do I do this? And if like you can break your entire real estate journey down into just a 5-minute task, if your end goal is, hey, I want to be in the military, I just want to buy a couple properties as I go just to get to kind of see how this works out.
Right.
You don't have to be spending 100 hours a week trying to figure this out. Like just 5 minutes will get you there. And every single task can be broken down into 5 minutes. Like, let me call a realtor today. I'm like, that's a 5-minute phone call. You can get set up on a search list. It's free. You don't have to pay anything to call a realtor. They'll set you up on an automated search list. You can call lenders within 5 minutes, figure out the terms, just start breaking all this down. Insurance agents and all this. Like, there's a lot of pieces to it, but all of them can be broken down in a 5-minute task. So just pick something today and 5 minutes every day of just knocking out whatever it is.
So we normally do a troop to task. You just did it. You literally just blew out the water. So that's perfect, man. That's fantastic. Matter of fact, and since you've done the troop to task, and I know we're tight on time, but we're definitely gonna have to come back and talk more about your syndication. Maybe we should do a part 2 of this. I think, and I'll talk about that after this. We'll get you down for part 2, and we'll dig deeper into the syndication. That's my bad. I'd like to know more about what's going on. So, Kyle's story is pretty dope. But anyway, now we're gonna do what we call the hot seat game. So I'm going to go into this, and here we go. Good evenings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. Today we've got another illustrious guest. I know you want to know who he is. His name is Kyle Healy, and he is a multifamily investor, the creator of Creating Generational Fire. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome him to the show. We're going to get right into it. Kyle, welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Are you ready for your hot seat? You ready for your hot
Absolutely.
seat, my friend? Fantastic. We're going to get right into it. So first question, Kyle, and I'm going to answer these questions with you. I'm going to go right along with you on this. First question. What would you be doing if money wasn't a problem?
I'll be a stay-at-home dad for sure. Spend as much time with my kids as possible. I got 2 kids, a son and a daughter.
I love it. I love it. I imagine the games of tag and hide and go seek would be phenomenal inside the house.
Absolutely.
Personally, what would I be doing? I would. It's hard to follow that up, right? Because you don't want to say like now I can't say anything other than I'm hanging out with my kids. I keep myself out of trouble. I hang out with my
Say
kids
whatever
too.
you want. Say whatever you want.
What would I be doing? All right, I can't use that one. What would I be doing? I would be probably working more on this video podcast and this podcast just in general, helping as many people as I can, putting the message out there. You can do this in real estate in the military. I don't care if you don't have money. I don't care if you're E1, E0.5. You could be in basic training for all I care right now. You could do this. Anyway, all right, so next. If you had a blank wall, what would you write in graffiti? Ooh. Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, it is. I would say, honestly, just never quit.
Okay.
Can't be wrong if you never quit.
Okay. I like it. I am more deviant in this sense. I'm going to put my name. I feel like the original reason people were tagging stuff in graffiti was because it gave them a feeling, right? They felt like, oh, this is mine, my city, my wall. I'd probably do that just to see how that felt. All right, next question.
I like that.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. Next question. What question would you ask the president if the response was 100% truthful and it was guaranteed to be truthful?
That's another good one.
Don't worry, I'm gonna buy you some time. While you think about it, I would ask the whole alien thing. I think we've all been, sketchy enough. Area 51 stuff flying in the air. They did a whole FBI release at some point that was public knowledge supposedly. Yeah, I'd really be curious. Like, is that really a thing? What's going on? You know what I mean?
That's a good one. Yeah, I think mine would be, where does our money actually get spent?
Ooh, that's good.
Like a breakdown of the actual budget, I think would be interesting.
Yeah. The U.S. government sometimes feels like that HOA right when you move into the house.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. Wait, I don't have street lights. The pool's not open half the time. What's going on? Where's my money going?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Next question. What would a video of your last weekend be titled?
My last weekend. I'm gonna go with greatest dad in the world. So I spent all weekend with my kids. So.
Okay, I'm starting to see a centralized theme here. I like it, and I like that theme. That's the good stuff. Mine would be called Old Man and a Website. I have been trying to get a website up for like 3 weeks now, and it's been an absolute nightmare. And I can't afford to do anything else, so I got to do it my doggone self. And man, it's like every time you fix one thing, it's something else falls apart. And I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong here? So I got it together now. Bro, it is not. Yeah, it's not a joke. I've got it together now, but there's still like bits and pieces I've got to kind of sharpen up, fix, clean up. But at least I got it up and running.
There you go. I was gonna say I know that I'm in the same boat where like you go through and then you go check it out on one screen, you go to click through, like, oh, that link's broken, or that doesn't take me where I want to be. You're like, oh, come on.
Right? Or you think like you're like, oh, I got it right. Right? You launch it, and a buddy calls you or sends you a text message, hey, your link on your site isn't working, and you're in the middle of driving to work. Jesus Christ, man, I can't win with this damn thing. All right.
Yep.
Next question. What would you do to pass the time if you were stuck in an elevator for hours? So just you. Kids ain't around. You can't use them. Yeah, can't use kids this time.
I probably would end up just like goal setting and goal planning, like internally. Like I'm a big analytical person, so I like to just kind of run through what my goals are, and I would spend so much time thinking about my same goals just over and over, even though I've done it every week all year.
I like it. I think I would run through all of my musical mental library right? Like all the
Okay.
old R&B songs where like they're just so long because they're talking the whole time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I got up last night, and yeah, that'd be me inside the elevator, right? The people coming to rescue me would hear that and be like, "What is going on in here? This guy's losing his mind. He's out of it." That is what I would do personally.
Okay.
All right, Kyle. This has been absolutely amazing. It's been really dope. I appreciate you coming on. I want to make sure people can get a hold of you and reach out to you. Could you please give them how to do that?
Absolutely. So, two best ways to get a hold of me. Creatinggenerationalfire.com is kind of where my website is. It's always a work in progress. So, and then the other one is it's on Instagram. My handle is at creatinggenerationalfire, and that one I'm on pretty religiously and putting out real estate related content. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here. Remember, you're better than you were, but you're not half as good as you're going to be. Go out this week and punch your problems in the face. We'll see you next time.